Call the meeting back to order. Are we on?
Yes.
We're on? We're back on by about 8:31 on the clock on the wall. And we are welcoming, I had this ready and now I screwed it. Lynn Simmons. Ms. Simmons, hello.
Hi.
We'll introduce ourselves starting Mr. Cawley.
Ed Cawley.
Mike Phelan.
Jackie Sears. Liz Moulton. How are you? Good. How are you?
Are we going around? Did we go around you guys the last time?
Whiteley.
Jim Palermo. I'm John Martin. We'll be adjusted.
And just to introduce ourselves, the select board, obviously, the screening committee, obviously, and the last couple of candidates, we've conducted interviews with the select board asking questions, then the screening committee, follow-up committee questions, and then anything from the public, if that's okay by you.
Yeah.
And Liz gets to start it every time because she's at that end of the table.
So I already asked you how the weather was. It's cold, the roads are slick. So can you talk to us a little bit about your experience and how you qualify for this position?
So I've been with the city of Northampton for 9 years. I started there in 2004 as clerk to the City Council and License Commission. That position was a newly created position. Many of the duties were removed from the city clerk and the law department and merged into one office when our law department was eliminated. And that person staffed the city council and the license commission along with any other committee that they added on, which grew to quite a list after a while. So having been only the second person in that job since it was created, the first person had done it for a year before me and really didn't own the role, didn't establish anything. So that allowed me to come in and establish the office, and I was there for 4 years and loved the position and really made it my own. And many of the practices and procedures are still what's used right now. So I'm giving you a little bit of background because I think it's going to help you understand
That's great.
why I think this would be a perfect role. And then I went to the city clerk's office and worked as assistant city clerk for 3 years. I saw this as a good move to learn a different office and decide whether or not running for city clerk was something that I was going to consider. And I worked there for 3 years with the city clerk. It was great. I liked working with the public, but ultimately I wanted a much more varied work day, not like the workload. It was pretty much the same thing all the time, which wasn't bad, but I was used to the city council, which was always changing. We were always dealing with different types of matters, and then the license commission, which dealt with liquor licenses and car dealer and common victualler. So that gave two really interesting areas that I was lacking in the city clerk's office. So when the position of mayoral aide became available, I was asked to take that job, and I thought that would give me another great varied role dealing with the public, but with different types of issues, and also dealing with a lot of policy things and items that would bring the mayor's agenda forward. And so I've been there now for about 2.5 years, and I do love that role and I love the work, but now I'm looking for something that has more responsibility and getting back toward more of the implementing policy and seeing how things work through the process. I think this would be a great role, and I think I'd be a great fit.
So it seems like some of your job history has kind of been steps up from one to another, and this might be the next fluid step for you in your career. What do you think one of the challenges would be for you in assuming this new position?
Sure. I think one of the biggest challenges would be having worked for a city, learning the town government role and the differences between bylaws and ordinances and town warrant and city council agenda items, and also the fact that there's just town meeting several times a year as opposed to a city council meeting where votes are passed on financial matters every 2 weeks. So that, learning that process would probably be one of the biggest steps for me.
Okay. And so this position is pretty much a leadership role. How would you describe your leadership or management style?
Yeah, I was thinking about this question actually, because I thought you might ask it, and I was thinking, it really, for me, it would depend on the situation that I'm in, because I do think different leadership and management styles are necessary depending on the situation that you're dealing with. I think certain times you definitely need to be more authoritative, and then other times you need to be more collaborative and work with people, as opposed to showing them that you're the actual leader. I don't think that's effective in certain situations. So it would really depend, and I do think I can bring all of those levels to this position and be able to determine which role is right at the time.
And so one other question I have is, what would the people who work with you in your office say about you?
That I'm a problem solver. I am definitely a team player, and I research issues very well before giving answers that I'm not sure about. That I get along pretty much with everyone. I can't think of anyone that I don't get along with right now that I work with. And that I'm a thoughtful person and someone they can go to either just sound an idea off of or actually seek input or advice from.
Great, thank you.
Okay. What techniques have you found to be most successful in assisting local government officials establish and implement long and short-term range goals for the community?
I think in a lot of situations, group work, pulling together people that have different backgrounds and experience in government, help bring whatever technique it is that you're looking for or policy forward. I think it's helpful to get other people's input because in government, people bring a wide background of experience, and I think that is really helpful, and it also provides a good representation of the city or town that you're working for and you're representing. You want to give them the best representation of the town, and by doing that you would bring together a good selection of people.
Okay, and then to what extent do you believe contact with citizens and citizens group is important? Because I'm trying to get a program called CCAP, which is a Citizens Crisis Assistance Program established in town, and it stems from when we had that 2011 snowstorm. Mm-hmm. Remember how fun that was? Did they lose power in Northampton as long as we did?
Yep. I don't know if it was as long. We were 3 to 5 days.
It was up to 7 days here. But because of that, I was on the select board at that time, and I felt like there was somebody out there, maybe that we didn't reach, that was in their home. It was cold, mm-hmm. And so I did some research and I found a program in Logan City, Utah, and I downloaded it here, and it's a FEMA-based program. So it's basically volunteers in different neighborhoods that would reach out to citizens now. And the police department has taken the program and made it applicable to Southampton. So my question to you is, mm-hmm. How would you help establish this program? How would you what outreach programs would you have to get the community involved? Yep,
no, I think that's a great idea. Definitely reaching out to any of the city boards and committees that would be, or town boards or committees that would be applicable. One right off the bat that I thought of was the Council on Aging, working with the Senior Center, because usually that's a segment of the population that doesn't necessarily have access to social media or the internet, or are not as savvy with it, so they wouldn't be able to get some special alert notices if you were putting those out in an electronic format, and which was fine for a limited period of time, but many people didn't have TV, so that didn't help at all. So I think reaching out to specifically the Council on Aging would help and get their input and how they feel that seniors could be brought together and a group created. And I don't think if you use a reverse 911 system here, but, certainly something like that should be looked at or could be looked at. But I think starting with the boards and committees that you have established and just hearing some ideas from them on what they feel like the real critical needs are, and going from there and working with any active citizens that maybe represent a neighborhood or a street or any of the, there's a PTO, working with them just to hear their ideas, and just creates a great segment of the population that can help spread the word and get input.
Thank you.
Apologize for being late, sorry.
David, do you want to catch up, or you want to, we're starting from your end of the table asking questions. I don't know whether you have any questions for
Who are
this.
you?
Kidding.
So I did read her CV.
Okay. I mean, I can come back to you afterwards, or do you want to jump in now?
I could just jump in now. I just
Go
came
ahead.
for another ruckus meeting, so it's just continuation. Lynn, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I'm Dave Meduga. I'm one of the selectmen, obviously. So, Northampton. What do you like about Northampton, working for Northampton?
We have a very active and engaged citizen base, which really keeps you on your toes. So I like that. It's nice to work for a community that is so involved most of the time. And we're a diverse population, comparable to a lot of other places. And usually we can sometimes be on the forefront of items, whether they're good or bad. So that gives a lot of learning on issues that could be coming up other places, or things that other places will soon be dealing with, because a lot of times we're presented with them first. So that's something I liked.
So it's a mayor with a city council, right? Is that how, that's how?
Yes.
How many councilors are there?
9.
So you got 10 bosses plus the population?
Currently, I only have one boss, just the mayor, the way that we're set up by charter.
Okay.
I previously worked for the city council, so I did
Okay.
at one point have 9.
So what was it like for you to have 9 different people with 9 different ideas, and 9 different directions? How did you handle that schizophrenic episode in
Yep.
your life?
So in the beginning, it was more just learning each one's different style and their need level, because they each varied greatly. Some of them needed a lot more hand-holding than others, and some just wanted the information and wanted it clear-cut directly to them as soon as you could. And others needed you to give them the information, but also a memo explaining what it was they were actually going to be looking at. So it was just really learning each one's style. And I don't think it actually took that long. I mean, I feel like I'm a pretty good read of people, and just communicating with them.
How did you resolve any conflicts with those 9 people? Like if one guy said one thing and you were did you ever feel like you were between 2 different opinions?
Occasionally, but ultimately, it rested with the president of council, who acts as the chair. So it wasn't necessarily 100% my say that went, but by the time I was leaving there, the relationship I had built up with the president ended up that he trusted me and respected my interpretation of things and knew that I had done my research. So it ended up being that I not necessarily speak for him, but knew that when I gave an answer, it was with his backing.
And what about, as town administrator, you're going to be alone a lot, in a sense. You have to stand strong.
Mm-hmm.
How would you go about dealing with that? I mean, it's
Right.
a lot of different personalities in the town hall,
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of different departments. Some people are retiring, thankfully. But he's looking at it over there.
I think there's
Strong department head personalities. I mean, what are you going to do? How are you going to deal with that?
Yeah,
You're going to cut Ed's budget 5%.
Well, the role of City Council and License Commission Clerk was a full-time role that was solely staffed by me. The counselors don't have office hours at all, so really I was their day-to-day person there, which I imagine is very similar to here. So you deal with 90% of what happens, and then when there's an issue that needs to have some higher level of intervention, or maybe not intervention, but just needs to be brought to someone else's attention, that's when I would get them involved. But a lot of it was just pointing people in the right direction, giving them answers, and helping them just navigate city or town government, because a lot of people don't know how to do that, not sure where to go for the answer. So, and then answering the other part of the question, dealing with a strong person, personality-wise, I've encountered lots of that because we deal with lots of different people in public service, and I have not ever really had an issue. I'd say the only time that's ever come up, and we see this more in Northampton than you probably do here, is mental health issues. People that come
Have you
in.
met Ed?
So it's not necessarily,
Take them out now or later?
and I don't mean that,
I know it's a difficult situation.
but just, yeah, just dealing with, all different types of people. But the strong personality, or someone that, maybe feels like they know more about it than you do, or, but it's not something that.
What do you do when you don't know something? Do you hide it? Do you forget about it?
No, I actually think that's one of the worst things you can do. I think that you need to admit that you're going to look for you're going to get the answer. That you need to look it up and just take some time. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Most of the decisions that you make in city or town government don't need to be made at the drop of a hat unless it's an emergency situation. So I think that time can certainly be afforded to find the right answer.
All right, just a couple last questions, Michael. What time do you get up in the morning?
Usually about 6.
Okay, so relatively early. Okay, do you feel like you're a morning person, afternoon person?
I used to be a night person and hated mornings, and
Okay.
I have a child now, so that's not an option anymore. So I'm definitely more of a morning person. Usually I'm getting ready for bed right about now.
Okay. What do you like to do for fun? What do you do to relax?
Yeah, I have a girls' craft club that meets at my house, and we meet monthly, and we do just various crafts, whatever we come up with. I like to spend time with my family. We have dogs, and we spend a lot of time outside.
Very good. Thank you for coming by this evening. Appreciate it. I turn it over to you, Michael.
David, you do know, you might as well buy a mailbox post on your way home, because I think when the town truck plowed tonight. Mailbox post.
It's been taken down once. I picked it up, I brought it over
Once,
to
maybe just
Jonathan Judd, I said, you killed it, you eat it.
Once, maybe is very few
I saw
times.
Ed texting over there.
He likes to talk. But he's my friend.
Thank you, Michael, I appreciate
But
it.
you did fine.
And I see in the last couple of years, you've done a lot of work with budgets for the city of Northampton. Tell us your experiences in that.
Yep. So as my first role was City Council and License Commission, it was on the end of managing the budget, making sure I didn't overspend, or, alerting our finance director if I thought we were going to run into deficit on anything, like specifically claims, because that was one thing I handled. So I saw that end of it, and now I'm on the end where we're actually preparing the budget and submitting it to the mayor for review, and then eventually to City Council. So I see the part that most people don't see, that starts months and months in advance, with a lot of, checking numbers and meeting with departments and finding out anything that was unexpected or should be unexpected, or where they might fall for the year, and then pulling everything together from that end.
On your experience with the budget, are you dealing with a zero-based budget or a level-funded budget?
So for this coming budget, we're talking about level service. Usually, we try to do that. The last 2 have been level funded. And then previous to that, we would have to submit 3 level funded, and then with various levels of cuts. But luckily, the last few have been level service budget.
Now, serves me right, your office is in with the mayor and the finance director?
Yes, I'm the mayor's, one of the mayor's aides, and the finance director's in our office as well.
So you see the day-to-day operation all the time?
Yes.
Are you involved with any kind of labor relations as far as managing on a managerial side for union negotiations?
Directly, no. However, the way our office is set up and is laid out, and just the nature of how we all communicate together and bounce ideas off of each other, I do hear a lot of it and occasionally give my opinion on different things of it, but directly, no, I'm not involved directly in that. We have a full-time human resource director, and we have labor council. They really are the ones that handle most of that.
In regards to your communication style, okay, what is your approach for getting the message out to your department heads, to your rank and file?
So this is similar to, I think, leadership style, where it depends on what the message is that you're trying to get out. Some of it is definitely delivered best face-to-face, because some things can be lost in email. But I do like to use email a lot, because I think that there's no question about what you intended to say or what the direction where it was that you wanted something to go in. And it also provides a record of what was said or what should have been done, not necessarily for the person you're sending it to, but for yourself to follow up on too, if there's not a response. But, you know, again, I think it just depends on what the message is, whether it needs to be in person, because there's certainly a lot to be gained from that, or by email or telephone.
So you're pretty much comfortable with doing whatever it takes to get the message out?
Definitely, yeah.
Because my feeling is there's a lot of times that people are on the road, especially your department heads, and they don't go back to their office. I mean, we're not at a point that we have all these little cell phones that can give, you know, my, like, messages. I have to go back to my office and get them.
Right.
Sometimes 2 or 3 days might go by, I don't see something. Would a flag go off that the message hasn't been received?
Well, yeah, definitely. Just that I would need to follow back up with you. We see this a lot, depending on the time of year, with our Department of Public Works, because they don't sit at a desk all day, and they don't check their voicemail or can't answer their phone all the time. So I think it's helpful to put yourself in that person's shoes to say, okay, well, why possibly didn't they get back to me? And just give them the benefit of the doubt and check back in and say, I know you're busy, we're all busy, can you maybe take a look at this?
Thank you.
Can I follow up, Ed? I mean, bigger department head says we don't have technology. Do you do a lot of texting or email from a handheld device? Is that part of the process in Northampton?
It is part of the process. However, it's not required of my position, but I find that I do my job better when I do that.
Does the highway department use text so you can get hold of them, or does the, I don't know, whatever department?
They do now more so than ever because of the communication style of our current mayor.
Yeah, I would think that everybody should have one, so it's easy, but that's me. And somebody says, well, I got a flip phone. I go, really? So it's depending on where you're coming from.
Hey, John, just make sure there's a line item for everybody to get those iPhones.
Right.
Hey, Ed.
Yeah.
Ed, do we have a radio in the selectman's office? That would be the easiest thing. I mean, if you're on the road, something's happening, it would actually be nice
Yeah,
to
they
have
can
it
take
in.
all my calls.
No, I mean, where's Highway 1? You just call them on the phone, they would get you.
Well, actually, they can, if they wanted to do that, they could call the dispatch, the dispatch can call.
Okay.
Yeah.
So communications is one issue to work on.
All right. Lynn, we don't have a human resource department. We don't have anybody who fills that role, so you obviously have to fill that role. And living in Northampton, you may know that this town hall is a well-oiled machine and we have no problems within it. But I want to pose a hypothetical to you that on day one you walk in here and it is anything but a well-oiled machine. In fact, it's rather dysfunctional. and departments aren't getting along with each other. Requests are going ignored or countermanded or whatever you want to be, and just picture the most, hypothetically, this is the most dysfunctional building you could imagine. How would you come in on day 1, day 60, and 1 year to handle that situation?
Sure. So I think one of the biggest things is bringing everyone together, meeting them and finding out their backgrounds a bit. That would help me learn about them and be able to read them better. Similar to working with the city councilors, just figuring out what style would work best with them. And then I would have a better idea on how to pull everyone together and figure out why it's not working and where that missing piece is, and how to put that back together. I would say no place of employment is without some sort of dysfunction, and we're not separate from that at all. We have a full-time human resource director, but a lot of the infighting or bickering or issues that should be handled by a department end up with the mayor because the buck stops with him. So we do deal with a lot of that maybe doesn't make it all the way to the level of a grievance or an actual labor issue. So I'm pretty well versed in how to deal with that. So on day 1, I would want to at least start by meeting everybody, whether it be one-on-one and then having a group meeting together. And then that would help me frame out how day 60 would be, and then within a year, I think I would, well, by day 60, I would hope I would have a pretty good idea what's going on and how we map a course to fix it.
What if it comes down to it simply personalities? These two people just are not going to get along. They're not going to like each other. They're not going to cooperate with each other. The best persuasion in the world is not working. What do you do?
I think what really needs to be emphasized is they don't necessarily have to like each other, but we're all here to do a job, and we're all working for the same goal. And no matter how we achieve that, we have to, at some level, work together and put aside whatever those differences are, because we're here to provide a service to the public. And if we can't get along enough to do that in the workplace, then something needs to be addressed.
Do you think your personality is such, as I've said to, I guess, everybody tonight, because you're a town administrator, you have no authority to, other than the strength of your personality? Can you manage to herd the cats that are here in the building to keep them all going in the same direction at one time? Because they all tend to go off on their own little way, and it's, you kind of got to keep pushing them along in one direction.
Right.
Your personality such that you can do that?
I would hope so, definitely, yeah. I wouldn't, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't be able to, but I also think that pulling together meetings with the department heads would be a good way to start that, just so everyone feels like they are working for that same goal and we're all on the same page.
Thank you. Screening committee questions?
I have just a couple. I understand that you are working on a committee with the mayor for IT. Is that correct? Would you tell us about that?
Sure. It's called the website an IT ad hoc committee or advisory committee to the mayor. We are currently undergoing a massive website redesign. One of my other roles is I'm the webmaster for the city, so that has been all time consuming right now for the last probably 6 weeks. It's a huge project. I love it. It's great. It's going to be the face of our city website wise. So I've learned on the fly with a lot of the website stuff because I don't have a background in that, but over the years I've used the website extensively, and I've used lots of different programs, and so I have a lot of understanding with that. And the other end of that, I was very familiar with the 2011 snowstorm. It's 2 days before that we launched our social media accounts, and I am the social media manager, although I don't have that title officially. It does rest with me, so I'm also very familiar on that end too, and I know how cities and towns can use that to their advantage to get messages out.
And how are you doing on your master's in public administration?
Almost done. Last class is a week from tonight. And then I have my final project that I'm presenting in the spring.
And before you came to the city, you worked as a paralegal? So did that give you any experience in doing legal research and dealing with statutes and so forth?
Yes, definitely. That was, I would say, the absolute best building block for my career in municipal government. I actually found the learning curve when I took the job initially not as strong, not as hard, because I did have that background and I do know how to research things, and that I think is one of the best things you can know how to do, because no matter what the question is, you can find the answer because you know how to research something.
Thank you.
Just a couple thoughts here. Now, when you were with the clerk to the city council, it says you drafted numerous ordinances, and resolutions, so you're familiar with that process?
Yes, definitely.
And you still do that now, I would
I
think?
do, yes.
Okay. And when we asked you if you work directly with state and federal governments, councils of governments, and other units of government, you said yes on the Council of Governments, worked with Peter Colcott, Stan Rosenberg, and Elizabeth Warren, did I write that right?
Yes.
Okay. So you,
Jim McGovern.
I didn't get that one.
No.
But the point I'm making is you work with a lot of local
Yes.
politicians.
Yep.
And the same politicians we work with here. Thanks.
Anybody else? Follow-up questions on the boards?
Do you have any questions for us?
Well, wait a
I do have
minute,
a
wait a
few.
minute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Open, John.
You weren't here,
Hi.
see?
Hi,
John's
thanks for
next.
coming. This is not a hypothetical question. It's a real situation. Happened recently here in town between two department heads. And I'd like you to answer how you would respond, and if you had any similar situations you've worked with in Northampton. Okay. There were two department heads, one dealing with finances and asking for paperwork for the financial, compensation or whatever. The second department head refused to supply the paperwork, right? And it got into a very tense situation, went all the way up to the select board. The select board heard out the whole situation from both department heads and took no action. How would you handle that as administrator?
Is the document not a public record?
The documents, well, as you know, you have a financial person in your office now, and he or she needs a paper trail for audits.
Mhm.
So she or he is constantly getting paperwork for reimbursement on bills or compensation or whatever. This particular department head refused to supply the backup paperwork.
So if I can interject, just was, town accountant asked the department head for backup paperwork for a request that the department head wanted, and the department head said no. And he's saying the select board didn't take an action on it, so knowing that, how would you work with the two department heads?
Exactly.
Okay. I think that it would need to be clarified why that paperwork is required, just the basics as to why it's required, especially if there's an outside audit done that has to be backed up. I mean, there's really no bending on that. I mean, any auditor's going to ask you to provide that, just as you would in your own personal finances. Even if you were being audited by the IRS, you would have to come up with that. So that's kind of a pretty basic level. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more going on and a lot more involved, but I think working with both department heads, finding out how that message was delivered, because a lot of times that can be what sets that person off. And then working with the other side, explaining exactly why it's needed. Maybe that was done, maybe it wasn't, but there's probably some sort of breakdown in communication there. And then I think the select board piece is a whole separate conversation or separate issue that would need to be addressed between the select board and the town administrator, and how they would want that carried out. But I understand the hypothetical, it's just hard without knowing everything, because I'm getting hung up on that auditor piece. Seems a really important piece, just knowing, seeing what I've dealt with in the city, you have to back up your expenses like that. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Actually, I was outside the whole situation, just getting my information from the newspaper. So I don't have all the details either, but from my own work experience, I was taken back because I was held accountable if anyone working for me or that was receiving any funds from us didn't have paperwork. It was a red flag.
Right.
Anybody else?
Yeah, just one more question. We talked about computer programs you're familiar with, Microsoft Suite, obviously. And you said you're also familiar with GIS mapping. That's a program that you have at Northampton now?
We do have it at Northampton. I don't use it there. I took a course in my graduate program for GIS mapping, which is something I could get a certificate in if I wanted to pursue, but I haven't necessarily made that decision yet.
That might be something we'd like here. I think we talked about GIS mapping or overlays.
We do have a lot of that GIS mapping already through Pioneer Valley Planning Commission.
Right, yeah.
Maybe with that.
Anyone? Oh, go ahead, Vicki.
Excuse me, speaking of software, what software does your finance director, AI use?
We use Munis.
Oh, you do, okay. Because you have soft right here, so I wasn't sure.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think from what I've heard, they're pretty, they all do the same thing.
I used Munis before I came here, and now I have SoftWrite, so they're very similar, but I just wasn't sure what you guys, what you're familiar
We just went to the
with.
cloud with Munis too, which they're all talking about. So, so far they like it, but
Oh, that's good to know.
yeah.
So a question back to you is, how hard was the transition for you from Munis to?
It wasn't too difficult. There are things about SoftWrite I'm not too keen on, but you get used to it as you kind of go along. And I don't know, all of you guys know when Dave was here, he was helpful, but he couldn't remember a lot of certain things in the program itself. So I kind of self-taught some of the software stuff myself, so it wasn't that difficult in order to try and figure out. There's a few things, like a year-end close, I had to call software to help them figure it out.
So do one, teach one?
Sure.
Anybody else? Any questions anywhere else? Hearing none, I'll steal David's thunder. Is there any questions you'd like to ask us?
I do. I just have a couple. I was curious to know what you think, as a select board, what your top 3 priorities would be that the town administrator should address the first year.
Conflict resolution.
Effective communication,
That's 2.
leadership.
Leadership of the town administrator or leadership of the...
Someone that can show a leadership, be a leader for the town hall, be a great communicator, be an effective communicator,
Team builder.
a team builder.
The herder of the cats, as Mike would like to say.
Yeah.
Professional cat herder.
I think learning our bylaws, understanding how, everything works here.
Resolving the personalities.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest keys that haven't been spoken is structure. We need structure. We need to have people follow structure. It's important.
And what do you see as the town administrator position having as the biggest challenge in the first year?
Conflict resolution.
Communication.
Communication, I think it's going to be a really big challenge for whoever comes in to figure out how each person communicates effectively and then be able to adapt to that and then take it all and put it together. I think that'll be the hardest part.
I think like we talked about at the interview, there's a lot of good people here. And they're waiting for that
Yeah.
person to come in and, facilitate or.
Catalyst.
So I think you've got the people. We don't want to give you the wrong impression.
Right.
Good group of people.
That was it. Those were my big ones.
Anybody else? Anything else? one more time for the public, if I forgot to ask you before. Hearing none.
Too bad people couldn't call in.
What's that?
You could have put your cell phone out there, Mike. People could call in with questions.
Text.
Text, they could text.
I could have held up my hand and held you out of the room.
I waited till...
That's why we told them the meeting was at 9 o'clock.
Lynn, did you have more questions? or-
No, that was it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good seeing you.
Good seeing you.
I believe so. We're going to talk about that next.
Thanks so much. Nice to see you. Dress well. Yeah, you too. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Nice meeting you. All right, well, I don't think I got through the, we're going to come back for a second. I want to finish this, the other items on the agenda and come back to this before we do this, get tired and leave.
Can we vote on it? Can we vote?
Sit down. I'm going to show leadership. Sit down.
There you go.
I don't know how far I got with the motions. We're going to transfer the sum of $371,777.97 from free cash to reduce the FY14 tax rate.
Yes.
We're going to pass over Article 2, which is the withholding, because it's not proper.
Right.
Is it in here?
No.
Article 3, we're going to move to transfer the sum of $175.72 from free cash to pay a prior year bill to WB Mason, and that requires a 9/10 vote.
Yes.
We're going to vote to transfer the sum of $2,500 from free cash to pay a prior year bill to Trident Insurance, which is for deductible that we owe, and that's a 9/10 vote. We're going to move to transfer the sum of $12,500 from free cash to the town's restricted stabilization fund, or the capital stabilization fund. That's a 2/3 vote.
Yes.
And then we're going to move to transfer the sum of $71,000 from free cash to town's all-purpose operating stabilization fund, and that's a 2/3 vote, and that's restoring the $59,000 we took for the school,
Yes.
and
No,
putting,
the $59,000 is to put it back for the raises that we took back in February.
The school's reimbursement.
yeah, but is it, but didn't know it, well, all right. It's replace the money we took for earlier in the year. Right, all right. Anybody have a problem with those? All right. Now, on the agenda is the issue of a PCF for Derek Geezer. I assume this is Donna putting it through. Do I have the PC?
Oh, actually, I just passed it to Ed.
I thought I gave it to you.
Zachary?
No, that's different.
This is a PCF for Derek Geezer to replace Annie Labonte on a temporary basis at, starting on 12/9/13 at $15 for up to 30 hours a week for 12 weeks. Temporary office staff. I have it in the car. He's on the finance committee, and if I read the bylaw correctly, a finance committee cannot be on any other board or appointed position.
Boards, I think it said, didn't it? I
It
mean, I
says-
quickly went in before, at the beginning of the meeting into the state conflict of interest law. I didn't see anything in there.
It's in the bylaw, it's in our town bylaw.
But doesn't say board? I mean, I don't have it in front of me.
No, I don't, and it's in the,
They can't be appointed?
it can't be in any other elected or appointed position. The question becomes, do you have it, Liz? I left it, it's in the car, but,
And is,
got it there?
and is this an appointed position?
That's my question, is this appointed position?
It's not, it's a temporary position, it's a
My only question,
hourly position.
my only question is, does that become an appointed position because would be it'd be assistant collector. I don't know whether that's an and I think we may have to seek an opinion whether that's an appointed position or not. I can make the phone
No
call
person
tomorrow.
holding other elective or appointed office shall be eligible to serve on said committee. The said bylaw does not distinguish between a permanent or temporary office.
So my suggestion would we pass this until we have a chance to contact the town council one more time to find out.
I'll make that motion, if you want to table it for now.
Put it on the 17th agenda.
Let's see.
Well, where's the question? Is he,
What I
the
heard
question
was
is, can he
okay.
be hired as an employee, or is he being hired as an appointee?
Is this an appointed position, assistant treasurer?
Appointed as a
They've always-
temporary position.
I don't know how they've been in the past, but I always thought they were an employee,
I don't disagree with you, but I don't know the answer.
but I don't either.
I don't know whether that's an appointed position.
Jim's got a question.
Yeah, the way I heard it read is that it does not apply to a temporary
No,
position,
I
right?
thought it,
What did it say, Liz?
All right, so it says, "This bylaw provides that the Finance Committee consists of 5 elected members and that no person holding other elective or appointive office shall be eligible to serve on said committee.
Right, can't serve on the
Wait a
finance
minute, let
committee.
it go.
The bylaw does not distinguish between a permanent or temporary office, nor does it distinguish between a person that holds another town office before election to the Finance Committee or acquiring one after the election." Hold on, it is
the
in...
question I have is whether the assistant
It's a hard position.
what, but if you're willing to, I don't know, that's all I'm saying.
It's not appointed, it's a hard
Well,
position.
what-
What's that?
It's a higher
It's a higher
You hire
position.
somebody,
I'd only raise the question, I don't know the answer, and I'm not sure.
When's the last time you appointed an assistant collector?
When's the last time anybody's filled a
No, they're
temporary
hired.
position?
We're posted and hired.
The permanent position is hired, however, Don is trying to fill it on a temporary basis. When you're doing it as a temporary basis, you are filling out the form almost as if appointed. Almost when I said.
All right, then make a motion.
I make a motion to approve it. Move next.
Hold on. I'm not...
Yeah, I mean, you're hiring either temporary or permanent, it's the same
It's a,
function.
yeah,
It's a temporary hire
Yeah.
right,
for an X amount of period. He's not seeking a full-time position.
right, that's fine. I make a motion to approve the PCF.
I'm with you now, Mike.
I just wanted to ask the question to get clarification. I
But
don't-
I thought what she said was, that this is not an appointed position, this is a
She said that
hiring.
no distinction is made. The first time she read it, I misheard it, but
No, the bylaw does not distinguish between a permanent or temporary office, nor does it distinguish between a person that holds another town office before election or acquiring one
The
after.
temporary or permanent appointment is what I was talking about.
Not hiring, this is a hiring.
Yeah.
This is different.
I don't know the answer to the question, I only asked it, you guys, there's a motion on the floor.
I would move to, I already moved.
You already moved.
I make a motion.
Well, there's already one
Already got a
motion, is there a
motion on the
second?
floor?
Is there a second? Do I have a second on that? If there's no second, the motion dies.
All right, so hold on a second. I just want to make sure I have all, we want to temporarily hire someone, not temporarily appoint someone. That's the difference.
Yeah, you're splitting the atom.
Right, we're not appointing.
And I
And it-
believe he has called, I wasn't aware that there was this in the bylaw, but he has called the Ethics Commission, which I know is different, it's a state matter, not town bylaw. And he has filed a disclosure that was needed to be filed, and, so as far as that goes, it's all above board. It's just so I'm just putting that out there, that was done.
How many times have we temporarily hired someone?
Do it all the time.
Once or twice a year.
And the only difference is that they're not on the finance
No, no,
committee.
it's finance, the complication here is that he's the finance committee.
And that as far as we know, he's called the ethics commission, and there's no trouble with that. There's no problem with this
There's
temporary
no
hiring.
question,
It's a bylaw.
there's no question there's no ethical problem. Now, no one's trying to raise that.
Okay,
The question is the wording of the bylaw.
so there doesn't say any word in here that says hiring, temporary hiring. It says temporary appointment. We're not temporarily appointing or temporarily hiring. So in that case, I would second your motion.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? I will be opposed.
Yeah, I am too. I'm opposed.
All right, which leads me to sign it anyway.
Like my position is appointed. I can't be on any other board committee. I'm appointed.
Well, you can't be, no, it's talking
Can't
about
be
the
on the
finance
finance
committee.
committee.
You can't be on the finance committee and have your
But
job.
by master of law, like I can't be on anything else. And, yeah, I couldn't be on the finance committee.
I think that accomplishes the agenda items, if I'm not
Make
mistaken.
a motion to adjourn?
No. Out the door. Right, Reggie, there's nothing,
You are correct.
I'm done. I got all of them. I've occasionally missed them as we get out of here in a galloping hurry. what's the board's pleasure as to how to proceed with discussions about the town administrator position?
I think we should discuss the town administrator position.
And I, just for point of clarification, when I reviewed the agenda, I don't think there's an item under which we can vote for a town administrator tonight. But we
can?
certainly can discuss it, because there's nowhere on the agenda item does it say
How come
take a
I
vote.
thought we were doing that tonight?
The fire chief.
Yeah. we did the
I'm
same-
just, you guys do what you want. There's not an agenda item, and I would suggest you have your discussion and come back and vote on the 17th, or the
Oh, come on.
17th.
How is the agenda?
It says interviews.
How was
It says scheduled
fire chief?
appointments.
I'll take do what you want. I just-
Scheduled appointments. It says it right there.
Scheduled appointments, yes. It doesn't say make.
It says scheduled appointments, so in that block of time, you can appoint something.
Okay, whatever you want to do.
How was it worded when you did the fire chief? Because you voted that same night.
I don't have.
It was recommended to put on the agenda that way. This time, it was not recommended to put on the agenda, hence the reasoning why it's not on the agenda that way. It's on the agenda for the 17th to make the final decision. The select board also had stated that they want to have a final decision before January 7th. But the 17th, from there on, it was going to be on the agenda. And those are it will be in the minutes.
All right, but be that as it may, it's an agenda item. You guys want to take whatever action you want to take. So here we go.
I'd make
How do you
a
want to,
motion-
wait a minute. How do you want to proceed?
I think
Can
we
I
need to
make-
discuss personal viewpoints.
Right, that would seem to be the first step. And the first question is, do you want to take any comments from the public before we start our discussion?
I think that'd be a wise decision.
Okay, does anybody in the public want to comment about the candidate? Yes.
I think Lynn is probably the most experienced. She has the most, I guess, to use the same word, experience in the different aspects of how town government works. I like Heather's drive and her personality. I didn't really like the first guy. I thought he was more of a kind of said what you wanted to hear type of guy. Not that he doesn't have experience, but
Carpetbagger.
I think Heather would fit in very well. I think she has the qualifications and, what we're looking for.
Heather or Lynn?
I mean, Lynn, sorry.
I'm sorry, anybody else? John?
Yeah, I would agree with that. In summation, it seemed out of the three, Lynn seems to have the best experience and education and training pertinent to the job of town administrator and the priorities that you mentioned that we need: communication, problem solving, herding of cats, or whatever. And I know a lot of people in Northampton because I spent my whole life working with Mia, and I know her reputation. I've never met her, but I know her reputation is rated very highly, both in City Hall, in government, and externally in the community. The other two, I think, are very capable, seem like good people, and much stronger, outgrowing people, better, probably more experienced in public speaking. One has said how he has had extra training in public speaking. It's obvious from the way he speaks and answers questions and handles himself in public. The other one has had a lot of training and experience with Girl Scouts doing public leadership, speaking, and so forth. I think those are good qualities, and they may or may not be helpful, in Southampton. I'm looking at the total person, and it just seems to me that Lynn comes with the most germane experience and education to help us right now with the problems that we're dealing with. And let's face it, it's going to be a lot of patching and catch-up in the town before they can really get up to speed, and I think she has the personality to want to work with people and do the research, define the problems, and help us work them out.
Thanks.
Anyone else? All right, committee?
Yeah, I guess if I can, we still feel comfortable.
Yeah.
One thing about Lynn, she's a little shy at first. We did have her back and talk to her again, where she was able to come out that little bit of a shelf. I think she was just a little nervous tonight. But she was the one that we all agreed on as our first choice, for the reasons that Vicki and John suggested. Heather and Doug, I like too. But she had all those experiences. She's working her way up that ladder. She's going to get her MPA in a couple of weeks. She's doing it all evenings. Takes a lot of drive and a lot of work while she's managing the family. She knows everybody in Northampton. We talked to two the former mayor and the current mayor, gave her accolades, said nothing bad. So all her references were very good. She lives down the road on Route 66 off of Florence Road. She knows the community. She knows the politicians. So like I said in the beginning of this whole meeting, this is a point where somebody needs to step from here in their career up to here. I think the size of the town and the financial package that we're giving them kind of indicates that too. And the four of us, I think she's the best candidate. Not that one of the other two can't do it, but that, if you're asking our opinion, am I accurate, folks?
Yep. If I could just add something, I agree with everything that John said. I also thought that Heather was very competent, but I am a little concerned that in terms of gainful employment, since leaving law school, she's only worked for 2 years, and most of her other experience has been in volunteer work. And therefore, when you really look at her experience in the clerk's office, it is rather limited. And she is an attorney, she's very bright, she's very articulate, but that bothers me, the scope of her experience. I also think that the town needs some longevity. And while certainly we never asked, nor do we have any assertion on the part of Lynn that she's going to be long-term, I think our chances with her of having some kind of longevity and continuity are greater than Doug's, because having commuted for 10 years between Northampton and Buffalo for a marriage, I knew I was looking for the first opportunity I could to move closer to my wife. Turned out to be a big mistake. not my current wife. That was the good thing about moving here.
That was a good comeback.
You know that has been taped for a posterity.
Oh, God, yeah, I'm really in trouble now.
10 people tonight that are sitting home watching this now.
But, so for all the reasons that John mentioned, plus the additional points I made, I think Lynn is the best choice.
Where do you want to start? Which end?
I'm in favor of Lynn as my candidate, only because I do have the opportunity. I have a brother-in-law that was her boss in Northampton. He was a finance director, and she comes very highly recommended by him. He had wonderful things to say about her, worked well with her, felt that she can accomplish a lot. She's very soft-spoken, like you said, but she's persistent, and she identifies a problem and resolves the problem. Maybe not to everybody's satisfaction sometimes, but she comes up with the answers. What I liked about what I saw on her resume and also discussing is that she progressed into this position. She saw she wanted the next step right along, and she's at the top. And I know, Jim, you talked to the mayor. He told you point blank she was ready for this move.
Oh, yeah.
And
I don't know if she was.
I feel that Heather was strong-willed and maybe not a very good match. That's my own thing. Doug, I think he was a politician, very polished, and we heard what we wanted to hear. But those are my observations. With that being said, I'm going for Lynn.
You want to keep? All right, I'll keep going down the table. I'm torn. I have to compliment the committee on bringing forth 3 surprising candidates. Heather's age is Jim noted, is a problem, but she's pretty forceful and seems like she'd get her way no matter what, and I like that. Sometimes it is an age that makes for wisdom.
By the way, I don't think he said age, I think he said experience.
Experience, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm saying experience, I meant to say experience. But her experience level may be such that she may not know how to say no and keep persistent or not accept a no. Being that said, she is inexperienced in the scope of town government. I'm torn, really, amongst the three. I have reasons to accept one for one reason and one for another, and I'm really torn on it. She does come across, Lynn comes across rather quietly, and I'm not, if she's that quiet all the time, we may have another problem. But, you know, I think she wins out on a slight edge for her experience level.
Well, I like Lynn a lot. She seems to have common sense, and she seems to be very reasonable, and she seems approachable. So that if people did have a problem, they would go talk to her, and I think she would help them work it out. And I think Heather has a lot of energy, and she would be a force to be reckoned with. And the other candidate, he seems like a nice person too. I can't say anything negative about anybody, so I can't go there. But I think Lynn would be our best candidate.
So I think Doug's quite capable of doing the job, but I think he told us, you know, kind of the cookie cutter answers and the right answers and what we want to hear. I like Heather. I think that she's a great personality. I think she has a strong personality. I think that she would come in and organize, maybe to a fault. I think that her strong, loud personality could be helpful in some ways and not so helpful in other ways. I really like Lynn. I see a lot of myself in her, which kind of makes me lean that way. She's worked her way from the bottom, and she keeps moving her way up, and she's learning all of the steps it takes to be successful and to succeed. And although she has a soft-spoken voice, we did bring her in for that second interview, and it was louder, and I didn't even know that the volume of her voice is enough for me to say I don't think she can do it. I think she's very capable, and especially when she was the clerk to the city council, that's 9 different personalities. That's a lot of personalities, and to handle all at once, and to have all of these different references with nothing bad to say about her tells me that she probably did a really good job managing those personalities, and my vote would be for Lynn.
So let me get this right. Our choices are some candidate on the Merrimack River near Methuen. The other choice is somebody who wants to move to be closer for family.
No.
We've been here before,
No.
correct?
No.
One is the city clerk at Haverhill, right?
But she wants to move here.
Right, okay.
She would move here.
But just hear me out. And the other one has some sort of family issue that wants to move around a little bit. I don't really see a commitment from either one of those. And then we have somebody who lives over on 66.
I don't
And,
think locations,
well, I'm looking for commitment. I
Okay,
think
all
we
right.
went through one process because our last one that took the job, then didn't take the job, okay? Been there, done that, don't want to do that again. Let's just move forward. And yes, I was only here to hear her side, to interview with her, but I read all the resumes, and I could sort of read through some of what was on the paper. And, you know, I don't know if you'll let me vote or not, Michael, because I didn't.
It's not up to me.
Okay. But my recommendation would be to go with Lynn.
My understanding is that you're here, you can vote, whether you heard all of it.
What was my recommendation when I sent an email? Same.
And I,
Because I didn't know if I could be here tonight, so there were conflicts, so.
your email would not have been voted.
No, I know, but I'm just saying that was my recommendation.
Your person here being, you'll be voted, but your email was not going to be voted.
I know I wasn't, but I'm just saying that having read what I read, looking at, I mean, there's a lot to it. I mean, all right, so Heather's, and I didn't get a chance to meet this young lady, I'm sure she's fine, but she's gonna leave all her friends and family and move here, okay? I just don't see that happening. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean,
I'm being honest, I'm just-
if I was debating the other side, I'd find issue with that, but. we're
That's
not-
my opinion.
But where did you move in from before you came here?
You wanna know where I've lived in my entire life?
I mean, I'm just saying that there's a lot of people that move in for a job.
I mean,
I think if you're, don't have
I
a
actually
family,
actually moved back to Massachusetts because I had a sick family member. Okay, I was in residency in Buffalo.
I didn't mean you specific, I'm just saying you in general being.
I lived in Buffalo, in Grand Island.
My hometown.
Yes, I love Buffalo. Buffalo's a lot of
in
nice people
defense of
there.
her, wanting to move out here, I think if you're young and you're not married, you don't have any commitments, you can drive an hour to see your mom and dad. You know what I mean? It's moving
Young
out
and
here
Young an hour.
is to.
You're young and have a turtle.
Well, you could take, all I'm saying is I think that
I think
her
she was
moving out
fine.
here is a legitimate, I really think she would come.
Okay,
But-
whatever. But anyways, I think Lynn was a better one.
All right, I need to bring this back. How do you want to proceed from here?
I'd make a motion tonight to
All right,
offer.
wait a minute, we still have, anything you're not, it's going to be conditioned on a background check, which we are doing, right?
As soon as I have the information from Higher Rate to move
Let's-
forward, I'm waiting for that
Let's
from
not
them.
wait till this one again. I mean, Higher Right didn't proceed quickly last time, correct? It did not go well, so I don't want to see this the same thing, just keep going and going and
Well,
going and going.
all right, well, then somebody clarify what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Well, I would make a motion to offer the position of town administrator to Lynn, with any stipulations that any other select person would like to add to that motion.
Can you do it pending the results of a positive background check?
Yes,
Yes.
and is there any reason why this vote would not count tonight?
Oh, that wouldn't be part of the motion, would it?
No, I'm just asking before I
it's-
say anything else.
I don't know the ramifications of it not being on the agenda. I would say you could ratify this you could take it.
It's pretty obvious what the vote's gonna be.
You could probably say that it's our intention to offer the position to her and proceed with a background check, come in next week, make the formal vote, make it clean, and then, and you'd be a week into the background check anyway.
But you can make it the offer pending ratification at next.
And next week, after the vote next week, make the offer pending the correct completion of the background check,
Well, let me
satisfactory completion.
also add something. Since it's the 17th, we have her in to negotiate.
You could ask her in on that night also.
Okay?
That might make sense to do it that way.
Not do it the other way we did, because the other way just got.
I don't want
dragged
to
out.
keep stretching this out and stretching it out.
We could invite her in, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah,
Her last graduate class is next Tuesday.
she said that was Tuesday.
How about we make, how about you, can we
Well,
do
let me
it
fill
Thursday
it in,
night?
sorry. The reason one of the reasons we scheduled her last is because her class was earlier. So it may be that you can bring her in next Tuesday, but just like at 7 or 7:30 or something.
Somebody have her contact information?
John does.
Oh, I got it, yeah.
Well, I mean,
So we could make a motion to
yeah, because,
proceed with an offer for Lynn pending a background check and,
Correct.
John, do you think like 8 o'clock is late enough to have her in?
When I told her 8:30, so that's great, that's plenty. I mean,
So,
could be that her class is at 4:30 too, I'm just saying.
Did she have a class tonight?
We could ask her what time would
She
be,
had it
if she was
earlier.
gonna be coming
Oh, okay.
home from
Well,
Westwood, she goes
here.
to Westwood State.
Why don't we just do it Thursday
if I
night?
find out the time,
and then we'll schedule,
Email Reggie.
she's on the agenda, we'll refine the time.
yeah, so I'll just
Yes.
email Reggie?
Yep.
The time?
Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah.
We already have items that are on the agenda, so the earliest that she can come, again, would be 7:30.
Oh, that's
So
Again, you-
anytime after 7:30.
Is the agenda posted for next week already?
No,
I already scheduled people on the agenda.
we've scheduled people.
Okay.
And the agenda is not posted, but it will have to be posted by Friday, right? Isn't that when we?
Thursday.
Thursday. So we only have one tomorrow.
So after, 7:30 and after?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what if she can't make it till 8? Is that so good? Can we?
We'll be here.
Kick the
until-
tires?
We'll
They
be here.
just schedule her from 7:30 to midnight, and she'll fit somewhere in there. Everybody be happy.
We'll schedule her at 7:30 when if she can come, as long as we're into the time. If we schedule her for 8:30 and she shows up at 7,
Right.
we shouldn't do it.
7:30 to midnight, town
So
administrator.
we'll put her on for 7:30, and if she shows up anytime after 7:30,
Okay.
let us know what time it is.
Well, is that, again, technically, if we have her at 7:30, she shows up at 7:45, can we still talk to her?
Yeah, yeah, as long as the time has gone by.
The other question into the board is, would you like to meet an executive first amongst yourselves to make your first offer?
That's true.
So we'll meet half hour beforehand.
Yeah, so we'll,
So 7:30 for you
still,
guys?
yeah, it's, I mean, 7:30 for her too, and just,
Oh, okay.
She can wait outside.
we can wait outside.
Well, let me ask you a question. When you sit down in an executive session, we know the range, so are you guys gonna, sorry, are you folks going to sit there and say, we're gonna offer her X dollars and see if she likes it and go back and forth, or does she get involved with that too? I don't know the process, so I wanna be able to tell her.
I think we'll refine the terms.
It's been back and forth in the past.
Yeah. Can we get out we made an offer to the last one, right? There's a pending, somewhere there must be a pending contract. Can you print that out for us?
Oh, yeah, I still have that.
Why don't you email that out to everybody? We'll email out the last contract that we started to negotiate with the last offeree, so you'll have that as a basis to come in and know what we're looking at. All right?
Is that the one with the company car or not?
What was that? You say company car?
It's a plow truck.
So we need to make a motion tonight to move forward, yes?
Yeah.
Well, I'll withdraw whatever I said.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to offer the position of town administrator to Lynn Simmons pending a background check.
And ratification
And
of
ratification,
the vote and salary, right?
Yeah, on the 17th.
Second.
And she's gonna be on the agenda, so you can talk to her about that. Would it be helpful if, when I call her, say, what are you looking at for salary? If she gives me a number, just pass it along to you guys? And if it's good, it's good?
Why not? Because it can't hurt.
Well, there's a range there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guess where she's going to be?
Personally, I'm not gonna, I don't think so. I think she'll.
I think we can
I don't
just
know.
handle it, don't you think we can
Yeah.
just
We can-
handle it?
I think
We
we
can
can.
we'll
quickly
be
check what she
okay.
makes.
I think leave that out of your conversation.
John, just a question. Considering she is currently working
Yep.
the last several years for another municipality,
Yeah.
in your experience at UMass, when you get somebody from another school, you always do a background check if they come from a private
We
school?
use Hire Right. That's the company we use on everybody.
Okay.
Even if
So,
they're coming from another school?
Doesn't
I'm just
matter.
saying, because he's coming from a
In
municipality.
person, be it the pot washer up to the vice chancellor, same process.
So coming school to school?
Doesn't, UMass to UMass?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know that because I don't know that anybody, but coming from
UMass Boston
Harvard,
versus UMass Amherst.
I don't know because I don't know anybody that hired, that's in the same system. So if you were in the same payroll
You
system.
were about to say Harvard to UMass.
Harvard to UMass, we check that person out.
I would too.
All right. Are we clear?
Do we have a
No, are we all set with,
Motion seconded, but I
No.
are you going into higher rate now?
I'm waiting for authorization from Hire
takes a
Right.
couple days
The
to go
paperwork
through.
was filled out and faxed
Yep.
today,
Yep.
making me the super user on the only account that there
It's
is.
called a screening committee account.
It's a screening committee account, so there's another account also associated with the town, or just a screening
No,
committee account?
That's your own account.
But does the town have another
But does the
account?
town have
Yes,
another?
the town has another account, but that's totally separate. That, you are the only user of that account.
So you're a super
I'm the
user on
user
the
of
town.
the select board office, you are the user of the screening committee.
Okay, so I'm waiting for authorization to be the super user on the screening committee account from Hire Right.
Correct.
As soon as I have that, I will.
Then you can, do we have an idea how long after, let's just say that gets accomplished?
It's like a 2-week process normally.
Wasn't last time.
So,
Well, you know, there was issues. You did the fireman last
The
time, that was
fire
quick,
went
right?
Oh,
fast.
the first
Yeah.
time.
That's because it
Yeah,
had
we
to be
already have
set
the
up from
account.
scratch.
Yeah,
So this is
Okay.
not, yeah.
it's different.
all right.
Well, I thought there was some delay because they were waiting for a letter or something from some reference.
All right.
Well,
So
I'll get the information into them, and as soon as I hear anything,
So I understand that the motion is, the intent is to offer her the position on the 17th.
yes,
Basically, yes.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Yes.
And it's Lynn Simmons.
yes.
Any further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
One other question, am I calling all three of them?
You want to?
It's gonna be in the paper tomorrow, right?
It's already on Twitter.
It's already on Twitter.
Why don't you just dictate the letter?
Wow.
You mind?
Do we have Twitter followers? Do you follow Tom Southampton?
She has followers.
I might follow her.
And I'm
You
gonna
have
tell
pictures
them,
already?
I'm gonna tell them that's the first candidate. If it falls through, then we're gonna look at a second
Yeah,
candidate.
yes.
Right.
Right. They were not the first candidate.
Right.
All right. Anything else?
Take a motion to adjourn.
I would take that.
That should be a motion.